Kiato has just dropped on global, and I feel like a lot of people skipped on his banner, which is fair, you know, with the units that might be coming up for season 3 being the academy units that were originally season 4 for JP. I totally get it, but I do have to say Kiato is an amazing PvE attacker, and he's going to be like a massive carry if you did happen to get him. So we're going to talk about how you guys should be upgrading his skills, which skills you should be upgrading first, what skill cards you want to equip to him, what gear you want to put on him, whether he's actually worth enhancing or not, what talent you want to build on him, and then of course what teams he's going to fit on for both PvP and PvE. So let's start by talking about his passive. This is just the passive he gets. It's not the enhanced passive. He gets this upon reaching LR status, okay? No, I don't have him LR yet because I just got him yesterday. I do actually have Kahono up to LR now, but I will be getting him to LR next. And so what his passive does is it grants Enthralling Dance whenever he has an active buff present. And so what Enthralling Dance does is it grants 5% endurance and 5% damage resist, which is really nice, making him an attacker who also has some tankiness to him, which is kind of crazy. And then this does stack as well, up to 5 times, increasing that percentage even more. And then upon stacking 5 Enthralling Dances, removes 5 of them, so all 5 of them, and gains a new buff called Soon to Be Idle for 2 turns. And during those 2 turns, he becomes an absolute powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with. It grants 30% endurance, 30% damage resist, and the big one, 50% increased damage dealt. That is insane when paired with the rest of his kit. Okay, so for skill 1, it's called Cross Slash. If a buff is present on self, attacks after granting a 15% increased damage dealt buff. That's not anything too insane, but it's decent because you're getting an increased damage dealt buff just for having a buff already on you, right? So that's really good. And then skill 2, this is what I would consider to be the best skill in his kit because I think it's absolutely nuts. So what he's going to do, attacks after granting a 10% increased crit rate buff for every active buff present. Okay, that is really good when you pair him with someone like William or you pair him with someone like Sally. That is absolutely nuts. And then removes 1 instance of continuous damage. And then upon removing that continuous damage, like a poison or a burn or whatever, he will get a sack of Enthralling Dance to help you get to that idle status faster. However, you do not get these 2 additional effects on his skill 2 unless you have his skill card. And I think his skill card is really good for this particular reason alone because it's going to help you get to that idle status faster, which is then going to allow you to do more damage, right? And then if you enhance this all the way to level 5 for this skill, you do get an extra crit rate plus 5% added to each buff that you have present. So that becomes from 10% to a 15% increased crit rate, which could be really insane, okay? And then for his special skill, it's called Dancing Vortex. It is a single target attack. If there are 2 or more active buffs, attacks against enemies will become a crit, which is really good, okay? Because it's so easy to get 2 or more active buffs, and then you have a guaranteed crit on the guy. All right, so you do not need to actually put crit rate gear on him like you would with some other characters like Red Yami. Okay, attacks after granting a 15% increased accuracy buff as well for every active buff. And when you upgrade this, he gets so much magic attack and attack scaling. Like it's a lot. He can hit very hard with this particular skill. This is an insane single target nuke. And then I feel like he also has an insane multi-target nuke. So he's really good. Now, in terms of like which one of these you want to upgrade first, I would say it's honestly debatable whether you want to upgrade this first or whether you want to upgrade this first. So if you feel like you're going to be taking on a lot of content where you have to target multiple enemies, or you're going to be doing PvP specifically, I feel like this would probably be potentially the better skill because you're going to be able to do more damage to more enemies. However, if you're taking on like raid bosses in PvE where it's a single target enemy, this is going to be the better skill to upgrade first, okay? So just kind of go with whatever you feel is better out of those 2. You should definitely not be upgrading skill 1 first because obviously that's the weakest of all the skills. All it does is scale your attack and magic attack a little bit. It's really not worth it. And then as for his combo skill, he doesn't have one with his sister, but like on the Canada version, he had one with his sister, but then on JP and KR, he didn't have one with his sister. I don't know if we're ever going to get one with his sister, but anyways, for The regular combined attack attacks after granting a 30% increased damage dealt buff if the enemy is taking continuous damage. That's okay. It's not anything too crazy. You get an additional 10% as you upgrade it, so up to 20% more, so a 50% damage buff. But I feel like you're not going to be using this skill if you have the opportunity to use this one with a guaranteed crit, right? Which is absolutely insane. So I wouldn't really worry about upgrading his combo skill either. So either special skill or skill 2 for upgrade priority, and then go with skill 1, and then last but not least, the combo skill in terms of upgrading your skills. And then as for skill cards, as I already mentioned with his skill card, it's really good because it gives you these additional effects of enthralling dance, which is nice. But then the passive is actually really good if it procs. So you have a 40% chance to attack after granting a 20% increased crit damage buff. And when you have a guaranteed crit, that is a large amount of crit damage added to your overall damage, which is very nice. However, if this doesn't proc, you have a 60% chance for it to not proc, then that does absolutely nothing for you, right? So it's kind of rough. Like, while I think his skill card is necessary for this because this is really nice, it really sucks if that doesn't proc. So keep that in mind. His skill card is kind of like a meh to me. Like, it could be really good or it could be really bad, and it's kind of RNG, and you're kind of just hoping, you know, that you get the effect you're looking for. So as other options of what you can run for skill cards, I really like this one for Season 1 Asta, because this one applies a 12 to 24%, just depending on how far you have it upgraded, increased crit damage to yourself. So that's a guaranteed increase in your crit damage, which could be very good for him. However, remember, if you run this skill card as opposed to Kiato's own skill card, you'll lose the additional effects on skill 2. Another free-to-play option, and there's other skill cards similar to this one that just increase all attack, right? Applies 10 to 20% increase all attack to yourself. So here's an option for you that everybody gets this for free. You could run this to just increase his overall attack and thereby increasing your overall damage. That is an option for a skill card, and those are kind of the skill cards I would run on him. I am going to run, like myself, his own skill card on him because I do like that additional effect on skill 2. As for gear, what should you guys be running on him? Well, he is an attack type mage, so you're actually not going to focus a whole lot on his magic attack. Now here, when I showed you my gear, I am going to have some magic attack stuff equipped, which is why you see it going up by 4,000. That is only because I don't have the attack piece of gear yet, and if I ever get an attack piece of gear out of farming gear, I will be switching out the magic attack gear for the attack gear. So like this one right here says magic attack as the main stat. Ideally, you want the attack roll on that, okay? But the reason I have this piece of gear here is because it's part of a set that gives crit damage, okay? So I'm going to keep it here for now just so I can keep all my sets. These sets are ideal. These are like the best sets you can have, and I'll go over that here in a second. But as you can see, I have magic attack on that. I have attack on this one. I have magic attack on this one. I need to switch this one. I have attack, I have attack, I have attack, and I have attack. Okay, so I need to switch 2 of my gear pieces to attack eventually when I get them. But for the overall main stat, what you're going to want is attack, because that's going to allow him to do his most amount of damage. And then as for sets, there are 3 sets you want in total. You are going to want the gold crit set, which I already showed you. In order to get a gold set, you need 2 pieces of gear from the same set, which is the Resolute Judge set. And then for the gold penetration set, you're going to want 2 pieces of the Nature's Wonder gear equipped, which is going to give you penetration plus 7, just allowing you to do more damage as well. And then you want the regular crit damage set, which attacks after granting a 10% increased crit damage buff upon using his special skill. And as you know, he has a guaranteed crit on his special, so that could be really insane with him, which is why I'm willing to, you know, take the L and put the magic attack gear on him for this set, because I think the sets are definitely worth it on this character. But ideally, you go for all attack on the character, and then you go for these 3 sets. I would say these 3 sets are the best like potential sets you could be running on him. Besides these 3 sets, you could go for like an attack set. So you could go, but if you go for an attack set, go for the gold attack set, right? So you want to go for like the gold attack set, which increases your overall attack. But basically, damage is the way to go with Kiato. That's kind of what you want to build on him. And then as for enhancement, should you guys be enhancing him or not? Well, let's take a look at his enhancement level. So at enhancement level 2, you get an extra damage dealt plus 5%. That's pretty good when you consider that this guy is just going to be doing insane damage. An extra 5% can go a long ways. However, I don't think it's necessarily worth it to just go to 2 dupes. But then when we look at 5 dupes, it becomes absolutely worth it because this guy becomes nuts, right? At 5 dupes, he's really, really good. So at 5 dupes, damage dealt plus 8% now. And then you get this additional effect, favored damage dealt plus 15%. So red enemies, they are being nuked so hard, right? Like really, really hard. So this could be Kiato. If you didn't get like Julius, or you didn't pull for Julius or whatever, maybe you're watching this later, he can be a really good alternative to Julius to be able to like take down Noel and stuff like that. So he can be very, very good. So if you're able to enhance him to 5 stars, it's kind of worth it. But anything less than that, then it's not worth it. So kind of make your judgments from there. This is a character, if you need like a really strong blue attacker, once again, if you don't have Julius fully duped, then maybe you do want to fully dupe him. But, you know, use your own discretion on your versatile mage pieces with that. And then as for talents, what talent should you be equipping? Well, the most obvious talent is going to be crit damage, right? He gets guaranteed crit on his special, so you want plus 10% crit damage to maximize his damage. And then besides that, damage dealt plus 5%, just maximize his damage. He's going to be insane for you. And then defense-wise, you just want the flat 20% and the defense plus 4% and crit resist plus 2%. And then support-wise, you are going to want the damage resist, because add this 10% damage resist to the damage resist he gets from stacking his buff, right? That's going to be insane on an attacker for them to have that much damage resist. That's really, really good. And then also I would go for the SP plus 1. That way you can get your special skill back faster and potentially nuke again. Like if you need to nuke twice against a world boss, this might give you the opportunity to potentially do that. Okay, so that's the skill I would go for on the attack, defense, and support talent trees. And then now let's talk about the potential teams that you could be putting him on. So if we go over here to manage teams, I have a couple of teams already put together. So I really like this particular team for PvE content. Okay, I don't know if I would necessarily run it in PvP. I mean, you could try it. I would switch out Kahono for like Baltos to give yourself a little bit of speed. And the idea here is Kahono is going to be your healer / barrier defense character. You're going to have William for buffing the crap out of Kiato. And then also you're going to have Ghosh for buffing the crap out of him, because they both put insane amounts of attack buffs on this guy. And this guy is just going to go crazy. Like, if you don't believe me, like, put these two on a team with Kiato and try it out. It's absolutely nuts. It's a really, really good team. Okay, and this is a PvE team once again. If you wanted to try it in PvP, you could switch her out for like Valtos as an option. And then over here we have another Valtos team. Valtos is just so meta, right? He's going to be on a lot of teams, but he speeds up your team. Then you have Barrier, and his just like nuking potential. This is like the team right now that I run in PvP, except for instead of Kiato, I have Julius. But if you lack Julius, once again, here is another good option for a blue attacker that can do a massive amount of damage and potentially kill enemy Noels before they ever even get a chance to barrier. So I feel like this is a solid PvP team for him. You can always switch it up and try different things besides Valtos. If you wanted to go for more like a defensive build, you could probably switch Valtos out for like, you could probably try Kahono. Where is she at? Kahono, because then this could be actually kind of annoying. You have barrier, healing, and defense, and then you have him for attack. The biggest problem here is like, if this was Julius here, it would actually work really well, because the only person they'd be able to kill is Julius, and Julius would revive. But if they end up killing Kiato, then you have no way, like before you get the chance to use your skills because they're faster, then you have no way to revive them. But this is a potential option for PvP that you could run. And those are kind of the teams and ideas that you guys could be using for the character. Hopefully this guide helped you guys out a little bit. And if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.
Can anybody out there